Hello, people.
Good evening, sir.
All right. Welcome back. Welcome back. I got something really cool to show you guys. All right. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Right. So this is a image composition. Um, there are different elements that made up this image. So, for example, this is the background. This is the reflection. This is the shadow. And then that's the building there. And then this is that boat there in front on the pedestal. And then I have some reflections in the glass. So this is an image composition, and this will be our next mission. Here, this is going to be your assignment to create a similar composition. This model was created in SketchUp, and this background, there's a bunch of backgrounds that I will be giving out to you guys. So welcome to your assignment 1.
Wait, sorry, so exercise 5 was what we did earlier today?
Right. Now, if you look on the timetable, there is an overlap because if you check it out, assignment 1, that's going to be today. And then we have exercise 5, both of them starts on the same time. So today is where we are introduced to 3D modeling for the first time. And just like how we've been doing before, we've been doing some exercises as a kind of an introduction to each one of these topics. Now the assignment is going to last about 2 weeks. So it is not something that we're expected to do even this class. We're not going to start it this class, but instead what I'm going to do is I'm going to prepare you by introducing you to SketchUp, because that's going to form a major part of that assignment. So today, when you complete your exercise 5, then you will be ready to tackle the assignment 1. All right. I just wanted to give you guys a sneak peek of what it is going to be like. All right. It's going to be a 3D model we're going to create. And then we're gonna do some great stuff to it in Photoshop. Now for next week's class, I'll also be giving you more guidance for assignment 1. So don't worry, I'm not just pushing you out off of a cliff and say, go ahead, do assignment 1. I'm just introducing it to you. And what I'm doing is just kind of giving you all that you need in order to be able to go off and do it. Okay? So, to formally introduce you guys, this is what assignment 1 looks like. It basically it is worth 25%, and it has 3 parts. Part 1, we're going to create this 3D model. Part 2, we're going to carry this into Photoshop and put it in a background. And part 3, remember we use layout today? We're going to lay out the different views on a layout sheet. Right? And we'll be splitting this up over the next 3 weeks. So every week we'll do some activity in class that is related to the assignment. So every time you do an activity, you feel a little bit more confident as you tackle the assignment. The first of those activities will be the exercise 5. And we're actually going to do another class activity today. Right? Now, the single Lego block that I used as a demonstration earlier today, that is not a class activity that you need to submit. That was just something for you to follow along in class so that you could understand how SketchUp works. All right, so let me just clear that up, because I don't want you to waste any time to do that Lego block. Do you know what I'm talking about, guys?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Right.
sir.
So for exercise 5, we learned about SketchUp this morning, and we did this Lego block, this single Lego block, and I carried you through step by step and showed you how you could build this. You are not to submit this. This is just to be done while during the demonstration. This is what you are going to submit. Right? And when you click the submit button, notice the file you're going to submit your SketchUp file, and you're going to submit your layout file as a PDF. All right? So that is what exercise 5 looks like. And that marks the end of your exercises. So I guess you could say that most major aspects, major software, we won't be learning any more major software after this one. And I think we're making good progress where we are now. All right. Does anybody have any question on on the schedule, the exercise? Anybody don't understand anything fully?
Sir, I do have a question.
Mm-hmm.
You have in the mirror board to
Mm-hmm.
submit. I think it's number 2. After doing the InDesign exercise, there's another one that it says upload your selected studio to process assets. But I thought that we would make an InDesign presentation and just submit the work. But when I open the link, it's asking to submit like everything separated. So I'm not sure what to do whether.
Are we talking about the previous studio-based assignment?
Yes, it's the after
Right.
doing the InDesign. The
So,
second one.
so the first thing we did was submit the InDesign part. That was 5%.
Yes.
Then the next thing we were to submit is a wireframe of your poster using InDesign, right? And the wireframe, remember we did that exercise in class where we broke down a sheet into these blocks. So that is what a wireframe is. So you would have submitted the wireframe for your poster design, and then you submit your actual poster design thereafter. And that those three together make up 15%.
So I did the wireframe thing.
Right. So what is it that you don't understand?
After the wireframe.
You're going to submit the actual design. Because remember, you know, a wireframe is just a bunch of boxes.
Yes.
But the actual, this is the actual poster, meaning, you know, the actual graphic with the plans and the photos. That is what you would submit.
But I did that already. But for example, I want to submit it, but it's like everything I have to submit. For example, the first one is a line drawing, diagram sketch, and then another one, second line drawing, diagram sketch. I'm not sure what is that.
Hold on. Which ones you're referring to?
It says second activity after doing the InDesign.
Right. You mean this one?
No, the second one.
This one?
Yeah, that one.
Right. So the images that you are using on your poster, you are supposed to submit them to me.
Okay.
So for example, when you decide to use the Tectonics project, and let's say you have 15 different photos and 20 different sketches, you're going to select 5 photos and 5 sketches to use in your poster design. That's all this is asking you to do. It's asking you to organize the information that you're going to use to create your poster and submit it.
Okay, and then number 4 is to do the presentation, or number 5?
Number 4 is what we did this in class. Number 4 is when in class we spoke about typography and alignment, and we took an example of a poster, broke it down into a wireframe. So number 4 is a whole class, is a whole activity that we did in class. There's not something to submit from number 4.
Okay, I do remember doing that one. Then it's just number 5 that we have to submit then.
Number 5, no. Oh, right. So what I was asking you to do for 5 is submit some words and images. This is in an effort to help you to in your poster design. Notice there's no grade beside it, so it is kind of optional, because some of us, when we have a blank page, maybe we don't know exactly where to start. So we spoke about themes, getting images that inspire us, to use that as a starting point for your poster designs. And what 5 is asking you to do is identify 3 words that represent the theme of your project. So for example, tranquil, it could be something that says excitement, rigidity, whatever it is, and identify 3 images. And this is in an effort to help you to come up with the design for your poster. All right? So that is what
I understand now.
Right, that is what this is. I don't think we spent much time on this in class though. So it varies from year to year depending on what we do. But the ones that has the percentages, those are the ones that are graded. All right. Okay, guys, any other questions? we're coming towards the end of the semester. So now is where a lot of grades start to come together, right? So I want you guys to keep an eye on your grades, your marks. If there are any discrepancies, maybe there's something that you submitted and you're not marked. Maybe you're not seeing your ID number. Let's try and deal with this before the end of the semester, as we're approaching the end of the semester now. All right, so we're going to continue our journey into SketchUp. And I see that most of you are on the mirror board. I'm going to stick some images on the mirror board for you.
Sir, are we going to continue working on the Lego block or a new assignment?
We're going to continue learning about SketchUp. The Lego block, you are on your own to finish that.
Okay.
Right.
So we're gonna be doing the other assignment tonight.
No, well, in order for you to do the assignment, there are a couple of things you guys need to learn. So those couple of things is what we are going to be doing. So the first thing, we're going to be learning about styles in SketchUp. That's what we're doing right now. Okay. And we're also going to learn how to sketch in SketchUp, sketch in 3D. So that's what we are doing now. So I'm looking for these. Sketches. I think I placed them on the website. All right, guys. Can't seem to find this file for some reason. I had it earlier. Let's do a search. This thing has vanished from my computer. Okay. All right. No worries. No worries. I can get it back. Oh, okay. Okay. I think I have it on a previous mirror board. Okay, got you. Got you. All right. All right, guys. This is the sketch that I wanted to talk to you about. And this is going to form our class activity for today. So I have these 5 interesting sketches here. And what they represent is kind of just like a hand sketch, right? And I want you to think of SketchUp as a way of, is it just like how you can do a quick, what we refer to as a chicken scratch sketch of an idea. You just grab a piece of paper and you just create a sketch of that idea. I want you to think of SketchUp kind of like that. So if I open okay, here we go. Right. So imagine that you were trying to sketch something for your design studio. And what do you think, guys? Does this qualify as a good chicken scratch sketch?
Yes, sir.
Right. And these kind of sketches, they're not necessarily meant for the public, but maybe you're just exploring an idea in your head and you just like doodling. And I want you to think of SketchUp as an extension of doodling, so to speak, where if you wanted to maybe explore this concept right here, it could be something as it could be something as simple as drawing a box, pushing it, maybe having another element like about right here. And this is using the same kind of tools that we used this morning. This is the pen tool. Maybe drawing another element like this. And then one in the middle here. And then maybe using the move tool, kind of pushing that inward like that. So you're able to explore ideas as quickly as it would take you to sketch them. Because it took me just a couple of seconds to just quickly sketch out this concept. And then the thing is, once you're transferred it into SketchUp, you can now start to play with other things, make it taller. You can, because it's now fully 3D, So you are now able to do things with it that you weren't able to do before. All right, do you guys follow me?
Yes, sir.
No. Quick one. Which one of the template was open? It matters?
No, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
And for the examples that we're doing today, where we're going to focus, this morning we focused on dimensions and making stuff precise. Today we're going to talk about sketching, where it's more about proportions rather than actual dimensions.
Okay. All right.
So my objective is for you guys, just like how you can grab a piece of paper and doodle up a sketch like this, I want you to be able to grab SketchUp and doodle up a model. Right? So we are going to be doing the ones that I've placed on the mirror board actually. Those are these 4 here. I'm going to carry through the first one and then you're going to just do the rest. All right? Okay, welcome to another practical session. And in this practical session, we are going to be exploring more advanced modeling techniques and features of SketchUp. So if we head on to the website and we scroll down, we can actually see some sketches here. And these sketches represent like hand sketches. Think about the process of creating a concept for maybe a design or an idea for a building. You might do some sketches of maybe sizes and proportions and, you know, what you think your design might look like.
Right.
So this is what I take you through to explain, okay, how do we go about converting a hand sketch into SketchUp? We're going to put this to one side here, and I'm using the architectural millimeters template. It doesn't matter what template you do choose, because we are going to be using proportions in order to figure out, you know, what sizes these are. Now, in addition to that, I have turned on the large tool set because, you know, it's great to have all these tools up front. And after we sketch this in 3D, the next thing we're going to do is experiment with some of the visual features that SketchUp offers, right? So we're going to look at the style editor, we're going to look at shadows and perspective, and all of these will help us to form the basis to complete your assignment 1, which is coming up coming up soon. Now, after we open SketchUp, the great thing we do have is a nice proportional figure here. So we have a rough idea of how tall an average person is, you know, maybe 5.5 feet thereabouts. So right away we can use this to judge stories and heights and things like that. And this is important because it is important that you rely on quick sketches. A sketch can get the idea out of your brain real quickly. The 3D will expand on that idea after you create what you had initially sketched. So we're going to look at how we would start with this model here. Okay, so now if we are to start a sketch like this, the first thing we'd have to do is kind of analyze a bit of what's happening here. So for example, well, we know that this is basically on a square base. So the first thing we could do is perhaps draw a square base, and I'm going to use my rectangle tool that is located here to do this. Now if I use that tool, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to start from the center. Remember, this is an estimate, so I'm gonna assume that it is a square. So notice I get that guideline to tell me that, you know, this is an even square. And I'm going to make an assumption that maybe my building is about this big. Now remember, I don't really have any measurements. Instead, I'm just assuming that perhaps a person would maybe be about that stature. So maybe this level here is perhaps 1 story. So it's probably about 10 feet, thereabout. Now, remember, so this is really coming from a sketch. So a couple of assumptions would have to be made. Now, if I look at how the legs are turned, I could assume that maybe there is probably maybe something like that, maybe something like that, and then on the other side it's pretty similar. Now remember, because it's a sketch, I don't know exactly what's happening on the back side, but I can only assume, and this is the power of 3D. Now we have to start making some assumptions. You know, maybe there's another one on this side, I'm not sure, but we're gonna go with that assumption. Okay, so we are gonna get perhaps another rectangle tool like that. Now there is one very important fact that we need to consider when using SketchUp. Now SketchUp has what I'd like to term as sticky fingers, meaning, notice I've drawn this shape over here. If I use my move tool, which is located here, and I click at a location to grab the object, so I click once. Okay, sorry, let me highlight that object first. So I'm going to use my selection tool, highlight the object, then use my move tool and click at a location to grab the object, and I click once and then move the mouse. I'm not holding down on the button, but I'm just clicking once. Now when I move this here, and you don't have to follow me, I'm just demonstrating what I call sticky fingers, and I drop it there. Now what you will notice is if you try to move this again, you will see that this is now stuck to where you have put it. And this is essentially how SketchUp operates by default. Once 2 shapes touch, they are going to basically merge. This is perhaps one of the primary things you need to understand of how SketchUp works. And this is kind of unique to SketchUp because this, if you use a lot of 3D modeling software, this feature is actually quite weird in my opinion. So anyway, I'm going to undo that. So remember, once 2 shape touch, doesn't matter even if it goes inside, it has now become a part of that shape. It's now stuck together. So what we want to do is, to avoid this, we would have to turn this shape into a group or a component, and we're going to look at the difference between the two. Now when something is a group, it's all individual. So for example, I can select this, and let's say I want to make a copy of this. Well, I could do the regular copy and paste. I'm going to put this over here. Now this copy, what I'll do is right click and I would say make it into a group. Now notice the difference between the, notice the different terminologies that currently exist. You can have an object as a group, or you can have an object as a component. So again, if I right click, I can get the option to make it a group or a component. Now I'm going to make this one a group, and now it's a group. So let me use my selection tool and deselect. If I click on this shape, the entire shape selects. This is my original over here, and if I click on it, notice that I'm still able to select one line, and I can select another line, and I can actually
Sir, I'm not seeing
click my
the
move
group.
tool and just move this. You're not seeing, when you right click, you're not seeing the group option?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Are you using the web option?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Okay. Well, what you can do is maybe use the menu. So if you select this, and you're saying you're not seeing make group, remember you have to select the object first, then right click. You still not seeing it?
No, sir.
Okay.
Oh, sir, I see when I highlight it like you did. I was just right clicking it. But when
Right.
I
You can't
highlight
just
it,
right click.
oh,
You
okay.
have to highlight it first so it's blue, then right click it, and then you see make group come up.
I see it a while ago, but I don't see it again. When you have to click the shape,
Yeah, you have to right click on the shape itself.
you right click on the shape or left click the shape.
Right click. You have
Hold
to
on.
select the shape first so it's blue, and then you're going to right click on the shape.
All right, when I click it, I see is like some dots in it. Left click it. When I left click, I see some dots in it, like it's highlighted, like it's selected. Then I right click in it, I see entry info, erase, hide, select area, intersect pages. Or is it that I should do the two of them one time? Oh, when I select two of them, then I see the make group, make component. Stuff like
Oh, right, because you cannot make a single object a group.
that. Okay.
So you have to, it has to be
two of
grouped
them.
with something else, an edge or another face or something.
Okay, gotcha.
Right.
So you're saying we should make something we should make it a group? What?
Right. So just follow us how I did it here. I made one of these squares a group.
Line alone and so forth. But if I click on this, I'm not able to select one line. It's going to select the entire object, and if I try to move it, the whole object will move. And that's because this object is now a group. Now, once an object is grouped, then it doesn't suffer from the same sticky fingers. So for example, if I highlight it first and then I go to my move tool and I move this object here, then voila, it does not stick to the object because it is kind of encased in a group, right? And not, I would call it, exposed to this sticky fingers syndrome. Now there is another interesting thing about groups, and to demonstrate this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this original again. So let's keep track of it. This one here is the original, and this one here is a group. Now that's G, so that represents group, and this is the original. Now if I select the original, and I'm going to do the same thing again, I'm going to copy and paste that over here. Now this time I'm going to right click it and I'm going to make it a component. Now when I make it a component, it's going to ask me to name the component, right? So I'm going to call this example, because I'm giving an example, so I'm going to name the object example. So this is essentially giving this component some properties, right? And you can see you can give it size, price, and name. Essentially, you're adding more information to this object. But we're just going to add a name called example as the only information. I'm going to go to create. Now, what we have here is a component. So I'm going to put C there because this is a component. Now the interesting thing about components is if I should copy the component, so I'm going to go copy and paste. So I've now copied the component, and I'm going to do the same thing to the group. I'm going to copy the group and paste the group. All right, so in here we have a component, and here we have a group. Now, I mean, I don't need to copy the original. We have been copying it since, but I'm still going to copy it. So I'm going to copy the group here. So here we have the original object. Now, the thing about this is, as you know, the original object is really just two different objects. But of course, we know when something is exposed as an original object, once it touches anything else, you try to move it again, it becomes stuck. So we know that when you have objects in SketchUp, that is what will happen. Now, of course, if the object is a group and we move it, I'm going to start using the shortcut, my shortcut keys, which is M. And if I move it here, then I can always move it again. I have no worries. Now, if I click on the component and I use the move tool, then you're going to notice pretty much the same thing. I can still move it around and it won't stick. Now, the difference with components is that I can edit the component still. So too can I edit the group. So if I wanted to go back and edit this shape, I would have to, the easiest way to do it, I could double click or I could right click and go to edit group. Let's use the double click because that's the most popular method. So I'm going to double click. Now notice when I go into this group, everything else becomes gray, and this is telling me that, hey, now I'm inside this group, and now I'm able to select these individual lines, which are the elements that make up the group. So if I go to my move tool, I can actually manipulate this group like that. Now if I wanted to save this, then the easiest thing for me to do is to use my selection tool and just double click in an open area. And that is how we manipulate a group. Now that I've come out of the group, it's now a single shape again, and I can just move it around as one element. I don't have to worry about the sticky fingers and so forth. Now on the other hand, if we should edit a component, and I'm going to double click this now, just like the group, I'm able to go in and modify these elements. However, the big difference here is that when I modify one element, you notice both elements actually change. Now, if I come out of this this component group, then I can still have these separate objects. So I can still move these around and they function as objects. However, you can see that these two objects are actually linked together. So you can think about things like that repeat, like ballistas or columns, and there are many other uses for this feature. You might have a case when you need something to be grouped so that they don't stick together, but in some cases you don't want when one change, all of them changes, and in some cases you do want that. So these are the three examples between group and component and just a regular object in SketchUp. Alright, so now that we have that example down, we can now start to plan how we want to do these columns, because I would do these columns as components because it's going to repeat. So in this case, I would draw one of the columns first, and notice that I'm drawing it on the outside because I don't want it to touch this element yet, or else of course it will stick. So I'm gonna highlight this and I'm gonna call this I'm gonna go make component, and I'm gonna call this column. And I'm gonna choose create. Then I'm gonna use my move tool and just kind of guesstimate. I could say that this is perhaps about like there. And I'm going to copy this, Control C, Control V. And what I can do is just hover from this end here slowly, and you will see that I have it aligned. There we go. So maybe this is about there. And I am going to put another column on this side. So then what I would do is copy these now. So there we go. Then I would now rotate. So I would use the rotate tool here. And the rotate tool can be a little tricky sometimes to use. How it works is that you need to first position the protractor. So the first click is to position.
It's not turning into a component?
No, it's not. It's not. Edit undo.
It's not what?
Yes, it's not. It's not turning into a component.
Remember, you have to select everything.
Yeah, man.
The face and the lines.
I did this. I did the end. I hover over it. I do the box over it.
Mm-hmm.
So I did the box over it, and then I press make component.
Right.
Right click and I say make component.
Right.
Then it says component. The dialog box came up.
Right.
I changed that to column. And then I said create.
Right. So what's the problem?
I don't know. All right, let me say move. I say press move, and then I move it, and then I drop that there, and then it just I must copy this.
Well, I'm gonna do it 4 times, so don't worry, you'll catch one of them.
Hold on, no, something no work. Hold on.
I'm gonna do it 4 times.
Position the protractor.
But why not click it?
The next click is to rotate the protractor. So I'm going to rotate it this way. And the third click is to rotate the object according to the protractor. There we go. So you have to do 3 clicks to let the protractor work. Now, there are some additional techniques with the protractor, but we'll touch them as we go along further. All right, so we are gonna move this one back here, right? And this is really representing this back one column there, right? All right, so these are all components, and so the idea is when we extrude one, all 3 of them will change. Now you can keep an eye on what these objects are. In case you don't remember if this was a group or component, you would find that in your default tray under entity info. So when you expand that, you would see that it says you have a component that's selected. If I selected this object, you would see that it says, you know, you have a face selected. All right. Okay, and the next thing we want to do is figure out what we're going to do for the back. So I would say we would copy these 2 guys. So we're going to select these 2 persons, these 2 items here, and then we're going to copy that. Control C, Control V. There we go, and we're going to just hover here and just use the polar snapping to just get the angles right. And then I'm going to assume that there will be another piece like this. Control C, Control V, and I'm going to copy that maybe over there. All right, now we have those. We need to extrude this now, and to do that we're going to double click so that we can edit this group. But the idea is, because these are all components, we're able to extrude one and extrude all. Now if this is going to be the height of a floor, then this is probably going to be about this high. About that, we're going to use the selection tool and double click outside to come back out of that group. All right, great. So we have these columns done now. So now we have to have the base of the building. Now we could copy this base and actually work with it. So let's do that. We're gonna select the base here, and then we're gonna copy it upwards. Now there's a trick to doing a copy in SketchUp. If I go to there's actually a let's go here, and now to copy in SketchUp, what you want to do is, well, first we need to select what we want to copy. Now we have been copying using the Control C, Control V, but we can also copy.
Yeah.
I got a ball. Is it a case where you cannot extrude components?
Yeah, no, you have to be inside the component to extrude it. You understand
Mine
what I mean?
isn't extruding either. I don't know. It just says it can't.
So for example, if I draw a rectangle here and I select all the faces and I convert it to a component, if I want to extrude this, I have to double click to go inside of this component, and then I can click on this face and extrude.
Okay, so
So I have to be inside the component in order for it to extrude.
understood.
Right.
Using the move tool and holding control while we move. So in this case, I'm going to grab this corner like this. And here is the trick. In order to copy this going upwards, I would need to orbit so that my view is mainly flat. And that way I am able to, remember to hold control, I'm able to copy this going upwards like that. So then I would have created the base of this object, which is that element there. So what is left for me to do is for me to extrude this object upwards. And I would say maybe this is about maybe 3 times the height. Maybe like that. Alright, remember what we're doing is creating a kind of sketch. Now, another interesting thing is that the perspective on this shot is a bit different. So in order to allow this to look like this, we would need to adjust the angle of view, and we can do that by going to camera and going to field of view, and we're gonna click, hold and drag. Now as we drag, you see that we're getting more of a worm's eye view, right? And the building is becoming more skewed, which is a little bit similar to this view here. Alright, now the next thing we want to do, so I want to go back to the move tool, is we want to start to cut this window shape out. So to do that, we're going to use the pencil tool, and we're going to just draw on top of this, and we're going to use the axis to kind of guide us. So we know that we are going vertically down and horizontally across on the X. And we're going to do the same thing for here. There we go. There we go. All right. Now that we have that done, we want to probably use the push-pull tool, and we want to hover over this inner section and push this inward, and hover over this section and push this inward. There we go. That looks pretty similar. Then we want to cut this shape out at the back. So let's try something different. What we can do is use the rectangle tool, and we can actually just draw a rectangle to represent that space there, like about that. And then we can use the push-pull tool again and just push this inward. Let's just do that twice. Yeah. All right, and see, that was pretty simple. Now what I want you guys to do now is try and imagine what happens around here, because remember, we only sketch what happens here. So I'm going to leave it up to your imagination to kind of do some suggestions for what happens here. Now while that is done, we're going to use this opportunity to explore some of the features of SketchUp. Now when we're using SketchUp, we're going to go to our default tray here, and this time I'm going to pin it. So we haven't really been using this tray, but now we're actually going to start using it. Now I am going to look under, let's first take a look at some features. So if I look under shadows, I'm able to turn on my shadows using that button there. So what I need to do is click it and notice that it's pressed, and then you can see the shadows on my screen. There we go. And I can adjust that shadow by adjusting the time of day I can even adjust the areas in shade, how bright or dark it should be, and the areas in light. All right. So that is a quick idea of how we get shadows going. Now, the next thing I want us to look on is our materials. Now, you may have some materials that are built into SketchUp. However, the materials that are shown here may not be included in your version of SketchUp. But let's not worry about that. What we're going to do first is just to kind of understand how this material tab works. So if I take a look at this tab, yes, there are default materials here. There is a preview window here, and when you click on any material or color here, you will see a preview of it here. Now there are some icons along the side here, but I'm going to ask you to go to this drop down menu that we have here, and what these are categories of materials that we can choose. Now, depending on your version of SketchUp, you may not have all of these categories, but we're going to start with one that we all should have. So we're going to look at the color category, and if I scroll through, you would see quite a bit of colors here. Now what we're going to do is let's try with some earth tone colors. So I'm going to go for that color there. Now, in order to apply this here, you will need to have the paint brush, the paint bucket tool selected. Now, this paint bucket tool works very similar to the paint bucket tool in Photoshop. For example, let's color the window here. So let's actually look for like a more blue color, and we're going to fill. There we go. Then we're going to fill this base with a different color. So let's go back to our earth tone colors here. I'm going to choose something a bit light, and I am going to actually, there we go. I'm going to actually just fill these areas in. There we go. Now I believe this area is actually filled, but what happened is that the sun, I think the sun is a bit too bright. So let me go back to my shadows tool here, and I'm going to adjust the brightness of the sun. Can you see that? So if I made the sun really bright, it basically washes out the color. So I'm going to put it back at about 50%. There we go. All right, let's color the insides. There we go. And let's get another color for the columns that we're doing here. So we're going to go to materials, and there we go. Now, of course, even though these are components, I can still color them differently. However, if I was to go inside one of these groups and then color the material, then what would happen is, let's do an example here, all of them will have the same color, and it would actually override the color that it is given. Because remember, these are components, so the idea is when you apply the color to one, it will apply to all. Alright, so that is just a quick idea of how we add color. Now texture is pretty much the same thing, so let's go to wood, and I'm going to choose a texture here, and I'll just pick a color, pick the paint bucket tool. Oh, actually it's not applying because I'm still inside the group here, so I need to double click, so use my selection tool and double click. There we go. And now I am able to apply material. Now as we get a little deeper in applying materials, you might want to change the scale of the material. You might say, well, the scale of this wood is too small, I want to make it bigger. Now in order to do that, this is when we start to go into the properties of the material. So we'll now need to go over to the edit side of the materials category, and under the edit side you can see a couple options here. Now first, you can see where the texture file is located. You can see where you adjust color, and the scale is adjusted by these two values here. So if we should, well, we're gonna lock this. No, that is locked. And if we increase the size here, so we make it 900 by 900, you will see that the size changes. So let me give you an example. If it was 300, then you will see the size change. So it really changes instantly. Let's try 1500. So you can clearly see now the texture size is much bigger. Now, in addition to changing the materials, you can also create your own material. So let's create our own color. Let's assume, so we're going to go back over to the select, and we're going to go back down to color. Right. So let's assume that none of these colors are colors that you would like. Well, to create your own material color, you are going to go to the, that's that icon right there, and that icon will bring up, well, it's going to bring up whatever material we currently have selected. So we are going to maybe select like white, and then we're going to bring it up. Now it's going to show us a preview of what we have selected, but we can rename this. We can call this Ryan's Red, and then we're going to pick a color. There we go. If we wanted to, we could use a texture, but we're just going to choose color for this, and we're going to choose OK. Now if you see that we have a color called Brand's Red, and that color is saved in the model. Now we can simply just apply that color to our object, and that is in a simple way how we add color. Now another really great feature of SketchUp is the ability for it to use styles, right? And this is perhaps one of the hallmarks of using SketchUp. Now, when you go to the Style tab, you will notice that you are able to select some styles. And just like the Materials tab, you will see you will have categories of styles. Now, on the default style, we're currently maybe using one of these styles here. Now, to change styles, you simply just click, and you'll notice that these are all various styles that we can use. Now things start to get interesting when you change it to, for example, maybe sketch edges. And if you check out these styles, well, they kind of look like a sketch, which is pretty awesome. You can try the white and black. And you even have some with color. That's right there. If you see like assorted styles, so for example, this is another interesting one here. There we go. This one kind of looks like a marker. And if you check out this category, Style Builder Competition Winners, and you must be saying, wait a minute, you can actually build these from scratch, right? These are styles that this person has built and they got featured in SketchUp. So if you want to now build your own style, well, to do that, you're going to use the Edit tab. So to see how this works, let's go back to default and let's put back our model on the first one, which is the pretty much the default that SketchUp starts with. Now when you go over to the edit, notice these main categories here. So the idea is that you would, in each of these categories, you would edit, and the full combination of editing each one of these creates your own style. All right, so let's check that out. So if I go to the first option here, it's all about edges, and I want you to look at these edges now as we change this. So we can, for example, say no edges, and if you notice, there are no internal edges, no profiles. Now you see there's no profiles there. We can turn on edges. We can turn on back faces. You can kind of see the little dash lines there for the back faces. Then you can turn on profiles, and profiles gives the bounding outline a particular thickness, and you can actually increase this thickness. Let's put it to 7. Here we go. So you can see a kind of a thick outline there. Depth Q kind of adds the line changes depending on how far it is. Then we have the extension. This one is pretty cool. Let's put that to 7. What that does, to make you see it, let's put it to 50. There we go. It creates these extensions. You have endpoints, which kind of adds a little kind of bulb to the end. And then you have jitter, which is, it basically allows the lines to look a bit more sketchy, as you can see here. So you can come, and all of these options are just about lines, and of course you can change the color. Now the next thing is the face settings, and each one of these has its own settings as well. So when we go to the face setting, we can say what is the front and the back face. Now as you can see, this face has materials because we actually applied materials. So the option that we select here, it is shaded faces, but if we should select wireframe, then you would only get the wireframe. It can be white, and then when the faces are white, all faces would be determined by this color. So if I put this to like red, blue, well, we see where that comes in a bit further down. But this is where all faces are practically monochromatic. And here we show all the faces here. Now these faces have material, that's why you're not really seeing these material come through. But notice that you're seeing this base here change to blue, and that's because we actually did not apply a material to the blue. So if we didn't apply material here, it would get these default colors. Once we turn on this option here, notice that it now shows texture. So this only shows color, and then that shows texture. Right. And of course this makes it all the same color based on what we select. And then X-ray mode pretty much allows it to be semi-transparent, and you can combine that with any one of these modes. So you can just imagine the kind of variety that you can get. Then we want to speak about the backgrounds. Now currently the sky has a kind of a gradient, and the ground, well, we can adjust what the ground should be. We can also adjust the background here, but right now we have the sky that's there. So if we didn't have the sky, then we would have just this background here. There we go. If we didn't have the ground, then we would have what we have here. So we're going to leave it on ground. And that is essentially what this area does. Now watermarks is what we're actually going to use to complete the the assignment 1. And the idea of a watermark is that you apply an image that can really help you to align this image. Now we're gonna look at watermarks when we start to look more at compositing, meaning mixing an image, a 3D image, with a actual photo. So we're going to look at that when we're looking at the compositing topic. And then these are all modeling settings. So for example, do you want to show geometry that is hidden? When you select an object, what color do you want it to be? You know, this is really how it looks while you're working on it. Now, if we go over to mix, what mix is, it's kind of a way, if you, for example, liked a particular style, let's say that for sketchy lines, you love the way how this line looked. Well, what you can do is actually drag this and drop it over the edge lines. And what you will do is absorb the line from this style. So you can actually grab, so let's look at another one here. Let's say that you love the way how the background looked here. Well, what you can do is drag this image over background, and then it will grab whatever, however it was used in this image here. So that's an interesting way that you can actually mix the styles together. Now, if you like what you've done here, then you can actually save your style. So I could call this BDW style. There we go. And that way I can come back to it anytime. So that was a real quick look at how we can model elements in SketchUp and just simply model from a sketched image. Really simple, really intuitive, and how we can use styles to really enhance our drawing here. Now, whenever you're saving from SketchUp, you are just going to go to File and go to Export, and you're going to export a 2D image, and this will allow you to save this image as a JPEG. So you can imagine how you could really take some of these sketches and add to your sketchbook, especially for conceptual sketches. This is an awesome tool. Okay, now for those of you who might be trying to this.
All right, guys. So that was a deep dive into more advanced features into SketchUp. So what do you think?
Rest.
Jomo, what do you think of some of these features?
So, based on what I've seen so far, I think it's a very interesting tool to use to, develop ideas in a three-dimensional way.
Right. And then you have these different styles that you can produce your work in. And not only that, you can lay them out on a sheet. So it's actually pretty intuitive. And that can literally take you through all of CSA, especially when it comes to schematic design, guys. Your early conceptual ideas and ideation, everybody should be using this tool. And then later on, when you guys move on to using more complex tools like Revit, this is when you have already worked out the concept of your design and you're going into production mode. All right. So what I want you guys to do is I want you guys to finish these other 3 sketches. Do it in your own style and just submit that for me. All right.
I have a question about this software here. Is there any way you can create a specific length or
a specific length?
Yeah, say for example you want to make one of them sides. You have a specific measurement that you want to.
Yeah, because remember we did that this morning. Were you in our earlier session?
No,
Session?
it wasn't necessary.
Right. So this morning we looked at how we get it to be precise. And trust me, this is not even the full depth of SketchUp. There is so much more that that we can do with SketchUp, and SketchUp has a whole bunch of plugins that extends its functionality. But before we dive into all of that, the key thing is to get you guys using SketchUp. All right. Now, we are going to model out that building that you saw on the handout, but let's just get our appetites wet by doing these sketches here and kind of figuring out our way around the program, and just submit that for me. All right, guys. So for next week's class, we're actually going to look into image compositing in Photoshop. So we are still going to be continuing our journey into SketchUp, but we're going to look at how we can save out an image from SketchUp so that we can carry it into Photoshop to add backgrounds and more effects. All right. So it's going to be awesome stuff, guys. Awesome stuff. But this is where we are for the for this class. All right. So I want you to guys to now go ahead and finish these custom sketches, and I will see you again next week, Monday.
All right, sir. Have a good night.
Okay.
Good
Good night, sir.
Good night.
Sir, before I go, sir, I realized that my ID number is not on the list.
Have you been seeing on your grade sheets? Have you been seeing your ID number?
No.
Okay. Thanks for telling me. I'm checking it. Give me a second. Tell me your name. First and last name.
Sir Addison Williams.
So that means I haven't marked any work for you, Addison?
Sir, I think so. I'm not too sure. Sir, it would make sense because I was remember the issues with my computer.
Oh, hold on. Hold on a second. No, man. I have you here.
You have me? Sir,
Tell me your ID.
2205083.
Yeah, so your ID has been here all along.
Sir, I looked at it yesterday. I didn't see anything. Also, sir,
Unless I just haven't marked any work for you yet.
sir, possibly. I mean, also even the computer thing. I don't know if you saw that one that I uploaded, the one with the computer specs, the activity.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and
Yeah, this is your ID number here. (220).
yes, sir, that's it. I just
Right.
didn't see anything on the site. And I couldn't find it.
No, man, so it's there now. It's there. All right.
Yes, sir. Sir, I just actually got InDesign because this whole time the WinRAR I was trying to use wasn't doing it, and then my mom had to end up getting it actually on my computer.
Oh. Well, try and push ahead. We're
Yeah.
starting the assignment within these coming 3 weeks. We'll be working on the assignment. So I would put the focus to that over the exercises. I would put the focus to the studio-based project to hand in that in and this assignment, because the studio-based project is 15% and this assignment is 25%.
Oh,
And I wouldn't worry too much about the exercises, which are 2% each.
oh, sir, I still might end up having to do everything regardless. But I'm gonna try getting the InDesign up and running so I can do the studio based one and what's it called? And the assignment one. So, yeah,
Well, good luck.
Thanks, sir. Thank you for your time. I hope you feel better soon.
Thank you so much.
No problem.
All right,
Sure.
take care. Yeah.
Before you leave, I'm not seeing any grades for any of my exercises.
Okay. What's your
2304264.
no, just tell me your hold on. Tell me your name.
Shamar, you're right.
I see where I marked for you exercise 1, 2, and 3. Your exercise 1 has an error. I think the file is corrupt or something. So I wasn't able to mark it. So you can resubmit that. As for exercise 2, I see where I marked that. And for exercise 3, I see where I marked that. I haven't marked your exercise 4 yet. All right?
Yes, sir.
All right. Okay, guys. I'll see you next week.